Welcome to the UnToxic Boss podcast, where leadership meets empathy and productivity meets compassion. I am your host, Jeannine K. Brown. We will dive into the world of effective leadership without toxicity. Get comfortable and learn to stop being a jerk at work. I am so excited about today's show. We have a special guest who is back for the second time talking about something that I think is really important. I don't know if we all consider how our money habits and our beliefs about money impact us at work. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this topic is because most recently in the news, there was a big story about an executive who was the chief diversity officer at Facebook, who was recently sentenced or will be sentenced, I think by the time our show airs, because of some financial fraud and embezzlement and stealing money. She stole millions of dollars, I think about $5 million from Facebook. And I do believe that our ideas about money and our beliefs about money really can hold us back. So today we're going to be talking about breaking free from toxic money beliefs that hold you back at work. So this topic is just so interesting because we're going to delve into the pervasive impact of toxic money beliefs in the workplace. This show and today's topic is going to feature our expert in insights from Carolina Perez Sanz, a seasoned coach dedicated to enhancing team dynamics and psychological safety. In today's topic, we're going to talk about how our money habits and our thoughts and beliefs impact us at work. And so I'm excited to introduce Carolina to all of you and actually bring her back. So you probably heard her on an earlier episode when she was here with us talking about toxic positivity. Because she has such great knowledge, we wanted to get her back on today's show. So Carolina, please welcome back and please tell everybody all about you and what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me back. It was a pleasure the first time, so I guess this time is going to be a pleasure too. Regarding money, what I'm doing, what I do, and I think about money from the perspective of you and money as a relationship system is, as I said before, I am a relational intelligence coach. And how do we, everybody, how do we relate to money in our minds and in our lives from this perspective of we are interdependent? I am dependent on my money is dependent on me up to a certain point. So I'm helping creatives who typically don't have a lot of financial background or financial education to be more comfortable asking for money. And I think that also can apply to people who are employed, who want to ask for raises and want to start building wealth and generational wealth. But those money beliefs are holding them back.
Well, let's jump right on into this topic because I know that there is a lot of baggage when it comes to money. And that baggage is, for some people, it is cultural. It's definitely relational, like you said. Some of it for us, it could be gender specific sort of baggage, how we see money. But why is money such a trigger topic for so many of us?
Great question. My position here, or my stance here, is that when you talk about money or when you think about money, you're actually thinking about your own personal power and your own agency. So when we want to make a decision around money, for example, to up-level financial situation that I'm in, that requires that I step into my power in a different way. And I think that's very triggering because if we want to do that, then we have to acknowledge that for some aspects of our lives, we have been giving our power away, which is always not a good place to be, right? So, yeah.
And I think you're right. I think, there's these mindsets that come up around money, right? Things that we were taught and systems that we believe in that really do impact us that also causes us to trigger. So what are some common toxic money beliefs in professional environments?
I mean, people don't talk about money a lot in professional settings, which is in itself reinforcing the toxicity around that. Like if I'm not talking about it, it's a force that I'm not seeing, I'm not hearing, and therefore I don't know the impact of that unless I put it in the open. So a lot of, I don't want you to know how much I make, or I don't want you to make more than me, or that type of secrecy around money is, I think, very toxic. But also, it gives power to the employer, right? So if I am the employer and I don't want anyone to share what they're making or what they could make, that gives the employer more power.
You know what? You hit on something so key that made me remember a conversation I had with a young professional. So for years, I spent time working with college students and young professionals, helping them get ready for their corporate jobs, internships, and we did all sorts of professional development workshops, very similar to what I do now in real life for the at my firm, Everyday Lead. And I got this phone call. First, I got a text message. I'm in this conference, and you will not believe what these partners are telling us. And she went on and said a few other things. And then she called me later that night, and she said, "Can you believe they were telling us to stop talking to each other about our compensation?" And so there's a whole generation that's willing to say, "Hey, well, my job offer was $70,000 and my job offer was $72,500." And they're sharing it. They're sharing how much their promotions were, the percentages and the actual dollar amounts. And they were being scolded.
Wow.
Stop doing that because the firm pays you fairly, is what they were told in this training that they were in. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It gives the employer so much more power because we have so much discomfort. If you're not talking about it, with talking about compensation, we don't negotiate it.
Exactly. And again, I believe that comes from not being comfortable with claiming our own power. And I know that a lot of people don't really resonate with the word power. I like to use it, but we can change it with, or we can substitute it with agency, which is more suitable for more people. But a lot of people find it more comfortable to say, "Oh, this is happening to me. There's nothing I can do," rather than taking responsibility for their destiny, if you want, and really take the wheel of their lives. But that's difficult for people. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think it goes back again to like these money beliefs, right? So some of us believe that there's never going to be enough money. And that's where we've created a lifestyle that our current compensation cannot support. And then we end up in these situations where people are stealing money from their employer.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so there's this scarcity mindset. And I tell people, it's always surprising to me that when there's a big headline about corporate theft and corporate greed, people are shaken by it. And I was like, you guys, that's why they have audit departments and fraud departments, because it's an ongoing issue with companies every single day. And then I think so you have that happening.
Yeah. And I think now that you mentioned that, I think that the fact that people steal, of course, comes from this scarcity mindset. There's not enough. And also comes from, I don't have enough agency to make more money, so I need to steal it, which in reality is not true. I mean, if you really, I don't know, if you took,
especially now, in this sort of economy and where we are now in this life that we live, with access to so much information and the ability to sell anything anywhere by using our phones and devices. To your
yeah,
point, we can make extra money. We can get a side gig and the hustle
yeah,
in any kind of ways. But I think because of that, and we look at these trinkets and assets and equating money to success, right? So we might not think we have the power to, but we actually see the opposite of that, right? We devalue who we are because we're not driving the luxury vehicle. We don't live in the 5-bedroom, 3-car garage home, or we don't have all of these things, the makings of what looks like success, which is also stress, right? Because you got to be able to pay that $700 car note to Mercedes-Benz. So we have all of these issues. And I think the other one I think that I often think about, Carolina, is like this zero sum thinking that I am making a lot, you cannot, or someone else is going to lose.
Yeah, there's not enough pie for everybody to have a big slice, instead of thinking, well, let's just make a bigger pie so everybody has more, right? And what I really, that makes me sad, is that we have been told, and that has become ingrained in a lot of us, that wanting more means we're greedy. And it's not true, because humans and nature always want more. If you leave a plant, it'll grow until it can't grow anymore, right? So the same is for us. So it's natural to want more. But we've been told, no, if you want more, it means that you're greedy and unstoppable or whatever. And
And you're not a good person.
you're not a good person. But you can want more and be a good person,
Yeah.
because maybe you're going to use that more to help more people. And
Yeah.
for example, in our professions, right, like if we are very successful and when we have a lot of money, it's because we're helping a lot of people. What's not to love about helping a lot of people, right?
Exactly right. And you should be paid and rewarded
Of
for
course.
being able to help and make that impact. But you're right. There's a lot of people who associate wealth and rich with bad and evil,
Yeah.
and that you're not doing something else. I think that's one of the challenges. I was on Instagram this morning. I was watching a young athlete, and she just moved into a new apartment, into a new city. She's walking around saying, "Hey, you got, I'm looking for something to organize my stuff. I got shoes here, I got clothes, all of my stuff is out and I need some organization. Can you give me some advice? If you have an Amazon store I want to support." She literally says, "If you have an Amazon store, put the link in the chat and I will support your store if you have the kind of things I need." The comments were horrendous, telling her she didn't need to buy anything else. All the poor people in Chicago, you should be giving your shoes to them. Like, it's all of these things. And I felt like, who says she's not supporting
Exactly.
other communities, right? The idea that she's not, because she's asking for a closet organizing system,
Yeah.
so it's those sort of things, and we see it show up. So how does this show up for people that, well, before I ask that question, let's talk about money negotiating compensation.
Mm.
I think that's one way that shows up for people. This toxic money beliefs show up when we don't negotiate our compensation, or we don't want to talk about money and promotion at work. We think it's just going to happen by osmosis, that someone's going to tap us on the shoulder and say, you deserve, a raise, and things like that over and above your value. Are there particular people and populations in the workplace that seem to have more issue with negotiating and talking about money at work?
Definitely yes. And I could say men, I mean, women or people of color. But the main idea is anyone who doesn't feel they belong to the dominant group. So if I work in a company that's founded by, I don't know, a couple of South Asians, Indians, mathematic people, and I am a woman, I am from Europe, I don't have any idea about math, I'm going to feel excluded because they are the dominant group and they're different. Maybe not feel excluded, obligatory, but I feel I'm not a part of the dominant group. And therefore, I'm going to have more issues reclaiming what I want, because I feel like, yeah, I don't belong there, because most companies are the dominant groups in most companies are white men nowadays.
Yes.
Anyone who's not a white man maybe is going to have more issues.
I am so glad that you defined it that way. So, for those of you who may have missed this, I think you defined it so perfectly. We may not be talking about money in the workplace, not because we're a woman, not because we are Black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, not because we are from another country or speak a different language. It could be because we're not part of the dominant group based on where we are. So I could be working in the tech space, and the predominant group, as you defined, could be men from South Asia, India, that identify as being Indian, that have strong backgrounds in education and training and technology. And I could be coming in and I am not that. I am not a man from South Asia who identifies as Indian with a strong experience and background. But maybe I'm a project manager who's coming in to support their work. But because I am not part of that dominant group, I'm probably I make myself a little small, and I don't talk about money as much, and I don't negotiate my compensation, and I take what is given to me. And I think that is really important to understand, because unfortunately in these descriptions we alienate people, right? We always use the example of white men as being the dominant group, but then we also, minimize the value that people of color and women can bring if they're, even in this conversation, right? Because you can walk into a room and it's all women that are the dominant group, right?
Exactly.
And a young man in his profession may not feel comfortable having these same sort of conversations.
That's exactly right. Because the idea is, if the dominant group is very closed and it's not inclusive, anyone who doesn't belong is going to feel uncomfortable and not belonging. And that's another thing about teams and teams dynamics. Like, really, even if you are the owner of the company, you can become a very inclusive dominant group. So actually, there's not a dominant group, but there's more horizontality. But it's very difficult to get there. I mean, it requires a lot of work.
So how do people identify what their money beliefs are and how they impact them at work? So if I were one of your coaching clients, what would this work look like? What would we be doing to identify this?
So I have 12 symptoms, which I call 12 money ghosts. And those money ghosts are things that are sometimes directly related to money, and sometimes they're not clearly related to money. But it's been proven. I didn't invent them. I call them money ghosts, and other people call them otherwise, but it's that. Like, those things that I do, or those things that I believe that are really deeply ingrained in my mind and in my persona and my DNA almost, those things make me make decisions in other areas of my life or other than money, but they impact my financial success. So for example, one of the symptoms, or one of the money ghosts, is, and I talked about it the other day on LinkedIn, is isolation. Of course, people who are hunted by this type of money ghost, they're not going to be willing to share, for example, how much they make. Why? Because they feel not enough, or they are afraid of comparison with another peer who is making much more, or because the employer is saying, no, please don't share what you're making. So the employer is actually forcing isolation. And then, because I feel a little ashamed of what I'm making, I become more and more isolated. And that means I don't ask for help. I don't ask for feedback. I don't propose somebody to collaborate in something, because I always feel not enough, or who's going to want to work with me anyway. That type of feeling that keeps me in isolation. And therefore, the money ghost is winning, and therefore I'm not going to make more money because I keep myself isolated.
That was so good. Because I'm sitting here thinking about myself. Were there moments where I've kept myself isolated and it impacted my ability to increase my income? And is there another money ghost that you want to share with us?
Oh, yeah.
I know you can't give us all 12, but is there one more that might give us an aha about our own behavior?
Yes. I talked about that one, I think last Friday on LinkedIn in a video. It's the compulsive need to prove. And some people are like, oh no, I don't need to prove anything. Okay, maybe you're needing to prove that you don't need to prove anything.
That is interesting. Wow.
Yeah, but anytime that we are feeling like I need to prove, for example, I need to prove that I'm smart. My personal ghost, my thing that I needed to prove was that I don't need help and that I'm very smart. That was my personal thing. And once I let go of that and I said, wait a minute, I have nothing to prove. Like some people will like what I say and some people won't. And that's perfectly okay because I'm not for everybody. So once you let go, it's like lose 20 pounds of garbage, as you were saying before. And then you're free to risk more, to ask. For example, if I don't need to prove that I'm compassionate or that I'm not greedy, I can go and ask. And I can, if I'm sitting at the negotiating table, I can ask, can I get more money for this work? If they say no, it's okay. I mean, okay, great.
Yeah, because then you can walk away. And I think as business owners, I deal with that all the time, right? My fees we have our fees. We know we believe the value that we can bring to organizations. And there are companies that we want to work for and our fees don't work for them. And sometimes it's sad and I try to figure out how can I make it work. But really, if it doesn't work, it's okay. The relationships can still be positive. And when you're in a position where you can pay our fees, then come on back. Right. So I think to your point, yeah. And I think that's the same way in work. If you're looking for a job, if you're in the market and you're looking to change your career or move to another company, I think that's why it's so important to be clear about what you want. And I tell people all the time, set the number, pick the number, and then pick the number that you're willing to walk away from. And so I'm willing to walk away from it. There's no hard feelings. I'm not going to go to happy hour and tell all my friends about how they tried to lowball me. I can just say, you know what? They weren't willing to give me the offer that I wanted. And I'm going to take my talent elsewhere or stay where I am. So I think that is so good. That is perfect. So I love these money ghosts because they do haunt us. So I get the pun. They do. These sorts of things haunt us. When you think about money and this, what do we need to do to shift from these toxic money beliefs that impact us at work to something a little bit more healthy or healthier perspectives?
Everything starts with awareness. So the first thing we need to do is to uncover the money ghosts or the beasts, know what beasts you're facing and really see them, look them in the eye and realize they're just part of your imagination. And then what I do with the people whom I help is I have them kind of track and try to spot the certain behaviors that they do or the feelings that they have that can be traced down to the money ghost. So for example, if you're going online because you're going to purchase a handbag or whatever. And then you're like, buy, I don't know. Should I buy? Oh, I don't know. Should I buy? I don't know. Should I buy? That is a behavior that can be stemming from a money ghost. So track that and say, oh, okay, I was trying to buy something and it took me 3 hours to decide or 3 weeks to decide whether I should buy it or not.
It's funny because you are like all in my business, Carolina. I most recently realized that I have a little well, no, I'm not a little. I have a scarcity mindset.
Okay.
But it shows up in thinking that I'm going to invest in something at the wrong time. So perfect example. I want to update some things in my home. I've lived in my home for a long time. I want to update my decor and colors and all of these things. I had a great consultation with someone who I want to hire. I knew exactly how much it was going to cost, had the funds. And then as the days went by, I kept thinking, but what if I need it for this? And what about if this comes up? Or maybe I should do these other things. And so what it did for me was while she was checking in and seeing if it was ready, am I going to pay the deposit? I realized I do this a lot. I do it a lot. I want to do a particular thing. And then I pause on doing it. But in the meantime, I'm purchasing small little things that equal what the big thing might cost. And I feel this sense of, and I think it goes back to my kid, I'd rather have 6 balls than one really big ball, right? I think it goes back to my childhood. And so
Probably.
I don't know how this has showed up when I was working, but I definitely see it when it's time to make a good investment, not to be frivolous with my money. So what I end up doing is taking a positive investment, turn it into frivolous spending because I feel like, well, I got 12 things versus this one thing that I really desire. And so I think you hit the nail on the head. And so listeners, I'm sharing my stuff with y'all. I'm being completely vulnerable here
Thank you.
about this. But that vulnerability, like you said before, it actually helped me figure out some other things and where I got some of my beliefs about where did this behavior come from?
Yeah.
How did it start, right? And where did I see it in my own family with my mother and
Yeah.
with my parents?
Yeah.
And it's a learned behavior that I just identified recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just got so much to say. This is such a great topic
I
because
know.
I don't think we think it's just, oh, we're not negotiating our compensation, but really we're doing a lot of things that impact us financially. We're staying in jobs that we hate.
Yes.
So what are some of these negative things that you see manifest in people that they don't even realize is because of these money beliefs that they have?
As you said, people staying in jobs that they don't like because they think they need the paycheck. And then, for example, in people who are entrepreneurs like ourselves, there are a lot of people who are so afraid of the sales call, that they are leaving a lot of business and money on the table because they're not willing to go and ask for the money. And people are living very unlucrative lives, or their money is not, their businesses are not thriving because they are not asking for the money. And I know that there are a lot of times that clients are like, I want to give you the money. I really want to give you the money, so come and ask. But people are not asking. And other things, as you said, people are, or sometimes we buy little things because it hurts less.
Yes. Yeah.
Instead of doing the big, risky, grown up thing of going and spend the big money in this thing that I know for sure is going to change my life, but I don't do it because it feels so risky.
Yeah. So if you are listening to today's show and some of these things are starting to prick at you, right? You feel not triggered, because we're not here to trigger anybody, but you're starting to see a light like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I've stayed in this job so long because I'm afraid, or I have, maybe sometimes it's like I say, it's almost like a handcuff because your compensation's so high.
Yeah.
Right, you're making a large compensation and you're afraid to leave, and maybe you're the breadwinner in your family. Maybe you're in a relationship that you should have walked away from, but because of the financial shackles that you are tied to,
Yeah.
or you're like me, you're making small little purchases, building up junk in your house, getting stuff, to ordain your body, or little small things. I had I had a sneaker thing going on, and I was like, I don't even wear sneakers like this, but I was buying them, and you don't know where they come from. Some of it could be emotional, it could be grief, it could be all sorts of things. So mine was grief, but we want you to start thinking about this, because these are the kind of things that will hold you back from having a fulfilling life and career, because they go unaddressed. And so, Carolina, as we wrap up today, please tell people maybe one tip that they can start doing to reassess and reshape their own money beliefs, and get the life and the career that they want.
Start talking about money openly. There's not a big deal. Read books around money. There are a lot of books talking about money from this mindset perspective. And then track how you feel anytime money comes into play. Like, if you're going to the supermarket and you're purchasing, how do you feel? What drives your decisions? Are you willing to drive 5 miles more because there's something that costs $2 less in another supermarket? Or when you're deciding whether to buy something or not, what feelings arise in you? So start to not analyze, because that's never good, but start to look into your internal narratives around money, I would say.
Yeah. What are we telling ourselves about money, and how is it holding us back or impacting how we show up at work? Because at the top of the show, I talked about an executive at Facebook who, because of her money beliefs and the lifestyle that she had created for herself, she felt compelled to steal from her employer. And now her brand and her reputation, her family, everything is falling apart because of these particular issues. And we don't want you to be in that situation. Carolina, tell everybody how they can connect with you and how they can work with you.
Everybody can connect with me on LinkedIn, Carolina Perez Sanz. Like, my profile is like that. It's very easy to find. You can visit my website, which is co-luminacoaching.com with a dash between co and Lumina. And yeah, I'm doing group coaching because I believe speaking around about money with other people is very important. So I have a group coaching going on where people can really start to learn about the money ghosts, how they are hunted by the money ghosts, and hear how other people are also hunted by them. And I also do one-on-one coaching, of course, around that. That's it. So
so you all connect with Carolina, get your money ghost. Let's get them out. We're going to be some money ghost busters. We're going to get those money ghosts out of your life so that you can see clearly. You feel more in control of conversations around money, and you don't have to be stuck in these ideas or jobs because you're afraid to have these conversations. Carolina, again, thank you for joining us. If you're looking for more resources on how to be an untoxic boss or psychological safety, please look in our chat and in the show notes. We have articles, and you can also visit our website at everyday-lead.com for more resources on psychological safety, high-performing team dynamics, and to also listen to our podcast where we have amazing guests. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Follow us on social media for more updates and insights. Together, we can build a workplace where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. We want to introduce you a resource that we know that will impact your life and your career. It's a book, Unstuck and Unstoppable. It is the ultimate guide to overcoming obstacles and achieving your goals. With practical tips and inspiring stories, the book will help you leverage your value, increase your visibility, and gain recognition to accelerate your career. Get your copy anywhere you buy books, either on Amazon or at our website at unstuckandunstoppablebook.com.